All right, so we started out the year well when it comes to the stock market. Earlier in the week, we kind of trended down, but then we did trend up on Thursday and especially Friday. We closed out the day not up on the week by a lot, but if you look at the specific indexes, I don't think any of them were actually up on the week. However, if you look at what happened, basically it was small caps, mid caps, and the equal weight all outperformed. The Meg 7, I think, was down about 3.5%. Let's just check out the numbers off the top of my head. I think the S&P was down a little less than 1%. If we look, let's start with the NASDAQ and see what happened with the NASDAQ here. Actually, it looks like the NASDAQ was up a little bit, to be honest. So NASDAQ was up just under 1% on the week. It's actually up quite a bit, it looks like, on the year. We closed sharply, or we opened sharply down on the 2nd, on Thursday, and then we closed that day up. We ended up on Friday as well. Let's check out the Meg 7 here, because that typically is what leads the markets. Actually, no, it looks like the Meg 7... Meg 7 was up about just under 1% as well, so pretty much the same as the NASDAQ. Let's check out the small caps and the mid caps, because I'm interested how those performed. I believe they outperformed, but let's check and see here. Yes, indeed, they did. If you look at the mid caps up about 1.67. Small caps, I believe, were about the same. Actually, quite a bit more. They're up over 2%, just over 2%. So, and if we look at the equal weight index, I think they beat the S&P and the NASDAQ, I know. About 1.2 for the equal weight. So the small caps and the mid caps clearly outperformed this week, and that's what I said in my predictions video, although again, it is only 2 days, so we still got a long way to go. But I do think that your smaller caps and your mid caps is the area of the market that isn't necessarily undervalued, but it's not necessarily overvalued, as opposed to the large caps, specifically your growth names like your Meg 7s, the NASDAQ, stuff like that. That area of the market is clearly overvalued. So I still do expect those areas of the market to be up. I just think that they'll lag the small caps and the mid caps a little bit. I could be wrong about that, but that's just what I'm projecting. And the reason I say that is quite simple, that the market is extremely expensive, and the top handful of stocks make up, basically the highest percentage they've ever made up of your major indexes. So based on that data, logic would imply that number is going to come down a little bit, meaning they're going to underperform. I could be wrong about that, but that's just what I think. And I still stand by my expectation that the markets will be up slightly this year. I don't expect crazy good returns, mainly because the markets are overvalued. But on the flip side, I don't see any major catalysts, at least right now, that are going to lead to negative returns. I do expect that 10-20% pullback at some point, but nobody knows when it's going to be. It could be next week. It might not even happen. So nobody really knows there. So the other big news of the week is, or the talk is, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. And Michael Saylor went to Mar-a-Lago to have dinner with the Trumps. Here is a picture of him with Eric Trump. And I still don't know if this is going to happen, but Trump has talked very favorably as far as crypto goes. He has hinted at a strategic reserve. I don't see why you would invite Saylor to Mar-a-Lago if you weren't planning on doing something. Like, I really don't. If it was just some general, hey, let's have dinner, that doesn't make any sense. So clearly they're planning something. What it is, nobody knows. If I were to put odds on whether I think there's going to be a strategic reserve, I'd say maybe 60-40. I think it's a little bit more likely that it happens than it doesn't happen. I just don't. And even if it does happen too, it doesn't guarantee it's going to make a major difference. For all we know, they're going to say, hey, all we're going to do is just keep the Bitcoin that we've seized from quote unquote criminals, right? That might be all they decide to do, and it doesn't really change anything. Or it's like, hey, we're going to buy, the 200,000 Bitcoin per year that the rumor was, and maybe they start selling off some gold, which is what they should be doing, and buying Bitcoin with it. That's the best case scenario. And either way, I think this is bullish. I think that we are in another consolidation period when it comes to Bitcoin. I think it could be within the next week for all we know, but for sure the next 1 or 2 months, especially by the time Trump's in office, I think we see another large upswing in Bitcoin. I think we probably hit, 120 to 150 the next upswing. And for all we know, if they announce the strategic reserve and they're legit on what they say they're going to do, we could go up 100,000 in a week or a month. Like that is not completely unrealistic whatsoever. So either way, I don't see any conceivable way that this is negative for Bitcoin. The question is, how positive is it? That's the real question here. I'm moderately positive here because, like I mentioned, logic implies that they're not inviting Saylor over for dinner just to see how his MicroStrategy, like they're doing something with Bitcoin. They want his recommendations on something, and that almost certainly is the strategic reserve or something along those lines. Next thing from Eli Nagar on Bitcoin. On Twitter, MicroStrategy now owns more Bitcoin than will be mined in the entire next halving. And not only that, they own more than 100,000 more Bitcoin than will be mined. So I really don't think people have caught on to just how crazy this is. I said in a previous video that Bitcoin and MicroStrategy is the investment opportunity, the best investment opportunity of our lifetime. I stand by that, and I think that people don't realize this. We still have so much room to go here, like so much room to go. MicroStrategy is not going to stop buying, and eventually there's going to be countries, whether it's the Americans, it doesn't matter who. Eventually, there's going to be a point to where several, if not a significant amount of countries are going to be, there already is a handful, like Bhutan, El Salvador, but they're doing it on a very small scale. Eventually, one of these larger countries is going to start buying on a level of MicroStrategy. And then when that happens, other countries are going to do it. And when that happens, billionaires are going to do it. Corporations are going to do it. And the Bitcoin is going to start to disappear and the price will skyrocket. When that happens, I don't know. But it's going to happen at some point. And I don't think people realize just how good of an opportunity this is. Like, I just seen a post the other day that if Bitcoin goes to $10 million, just based on the existing amount of Bitcoin that MicroStrategy has, it implies that based on their current valuation, they're going to be about a $5 trillion company. That's just the amount of Bitcoin. If, let's say, they trade for a 2 times premium to the amount of Bitcoin they have, that'd be 10 trillion. 3, that'd be 15. I think they're at about 2.5 right now. So if Bitcoin goes to 10 million, they're a 10, 15 trillion dollar company. That probably makes them, if not very close, to being the largest company in the world. I don't think people realize just how much room we have to run here still. Swan Bitcoin. New Bitcoin ETFs bought 511,000 Bitcoin in 2024 and now own 1.1 million Bitcoin in total. That's 5.4% of all the Bitcoin that will ever exist. In 1 year, these ETFs bought just over 5% of the Bitcoin that will ever exist. Like I've just mentioned, I don't think people are bullish enough. I think that there's virtually nobody that is bullish enough here. I could be wrong. Obviously, I could be wrong. Do your own due diligence. But I'm as bullish as I've ever been. I've been buying for just over 4 years now, and I'm as bullish as I've ever been. Like, I don't think people realize just how much room we have to run here. Obviously, the last year, I mean, we're up over 100%, but I think people expected more returns than that, which is crazy. But I think that we still have so much room to run. So do not sleep on this. Like, do not sleep on this. The ETFs are going to keep buying. Like, it's not like they're going to stop. They'll probably sell off a little bit in the down years. Yeah, they'll sell off a little bit, but not nearly as much as they're buying. Like, not nearly as much. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And the last thing here from Rajat Sony, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Very good follow on Twitter and YouTube if you don't follow him. Make sure you check him out there. I'm selling all my Bitcoin. I just watched a Dave Ramsey video saying, what if a computer nerd flipped a switch and turned off the Bitcoin computer? Poof, it would be gone. And I mean, I've picked on Dave Ramsey before, but when people make statements like this, like there's no amount of ridicule that is enough. I also seen a clip of Warren Buffett that I think it was actually Rajat that posted it on one of his videos. I'm not 100% sure though of Warren Buffett saying, you know, I don't really understand Bitcoin, but if I could short it over a long period of time, I would. But it's like, are you listening to yourself? Like, do these people listen to themselves? You just said, I don't understand it. Like, you just said you don't understand it, but you would short it? Like, what are you talking about? Like, how ignorant can these people possibly be? Now, yeah, obviously they're very successful. That's something that goes without saying. But when they're so wrong about something, like when your entire shtick, when what you're known for is, you know, Dave Ramsey's Mr. Personal Finance guy, Warren Buffett's known as one of the best investors of all time. When you're someone on that level, and you missed the best investment opportunity of this generation, and not only that, you refuse to acknowledge it. Like, I don't know why these guys get away with that. Like, I really don't. Like, you know, a good example, I guess, would be, it's like, if you were getting a house built by, you know, the best company in town, right? They have great reviews, everybody loves them, but they completely screwed up everything on your house. Like, everything's leaking and there's defects and stuff's not straight, it's crooked, it's falling apart. It's like, yeah, they have a good track record, but they completely screwed this up. Like, why? And someone's response was like, oh, they're a great company. What are you talking about? It's almost like gaslighting. In fact, it is gaslighting. So I'm not necessarily saying they're bad investors, but what I am saying is that the fact that they refuse to acknowledge that they're so wrong about this is just crazy. Like, it's just crazy. And this brings me back to the point I've been making just recently, is this is why we are still so early. Is that there's these guys, and it's not like they're nobodies. It's not like they're your friend or your cousin or whatever. These are people with tens of millions of followers or millions of followers. And they're making arguments that are so incredibly ignorant, it's not even funny. Like, it's not even funny how ignorant these people are. And I've said time and time again that the majority of people probably won't ever figure it out. But a significant minority will. And that's my bull thesis. So anyway, I like pointing this stuff out because I find it really amusing. So anyway, if you liked the video, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more.